Cassandra Wilson is our next speaker. And she is a coach and a development consultant and best-selling author. So welcome, Cassandra.
All right. So how many of you have heard of the term fake it till you make it? Okay. How many of you have actually faked it till you made it? Got some fakers out there? Cool. Awesome. So if you raised your hand, you are among the many. And if you haven't raised your hand, you're among the blessed. I'm Cassandra Wilson, a professional of developing leaders, a certified leadership coach, and a person who has used her grit and tenacity to build a wonderful life, and someone who is way too real to fake it. Or so I thought. I was very surprised to learn that about 70% of all people, not just men or women, but people in general, experience imposter syndrome in their lifetime. Merriam-Webster defines imposter syndrome as a psychological condition that is characterized by persistent doubt concerning one's abilities or accomplishments, accompanied by the fear of being exposed as a fraud, despite evidence of one's ongoing success. So, in other words, we kind of get professional amnesia. We forget about our accomplishments. As you'll read in my chapter, page 92, if you're interested, I'd always said, imposter syndrome, that happens to other people. It doesn't happen to me. Well, about 8 years ago, I left a company that I spent a better part of 20 years in, and, ooh, nice little ringtone. About 8 years ago, I left a company where I'd spent a better part of 2 decades, and I was very familiar with everything and comfortable, and I moved to a completely different industry where I was really unfamiliar, but the role was the same, the work was the same, so I really wasn't that worried. About 3 months into the new role, a triggering event occurred. Well, let me rephrase that. I chose to experience a trigger around this particular event. And what happened leveled me. I began to question my abilities, my talents, my skill, myself, and this went on for an agonizing 6 months. As the definition tells us, imposter syndrome is an intrinsic and internal negative perspective view that we hold of ourselves, that we bestow upon us. I didn't realize, but I placed myself inside of a box, trying to hide my inefficiencies and inequities from my leaders and my clients, my colleagues. I didn't realize at the time that I was playing a game of hide and seek alone. And the worst part was, I didn't talk about it to anyone. I was ashamed, so I didn't say anything to anyone about it, and that was the worst part of it all. Luckily, I was able to overcome that and move beyond that mental roadblock. So there is absolutely good news. Imposter syndrome is as avoidable as it is ubiquitous. Researcher Dr. Valerie Young identified 5 imposter types. So we're going to do a little bit of audience participation here because I'm a facilitator and this is just what I do. So if you would like to join in, that's great. I'm going to read the 5 types and some of the thoughts these people have. And if you feel like this was you or is you, raise your hand. And you can raise your hand more than once. Hopefully you don't raise it all 5 times, but we'll see. So this is going to require you to listen and be a little vulnerable. So the first one is the perfectionist. And the perfectionist thinks, if I'm not perfect, I'm a failure. How many perfectionists out there? Oh, okay, hands up, all right. Next, we have the natural genius. If I can't learn or understand something very quickly, I'm an idiot. Do you have any natural geniuses out there? All right. Next, we have the soloist. And the soloist is, if I can't achieve it on my own, I don't deserve it. Any soloists out there? Okay, how many of you raised your hand at least 3 times? Shouldn't ask. Okay, I don't want to know. Next is the super person. And this person feels if I am not the hardest working, highest achiever, then I'm nothing. I got to work the hardest. All right. And the last one, the fifth one, is the expert. This is the one that I fell under. If I don't have all the answers, I'm useless. That was mine. All right, so causes of imposter syndrome can range from your upbringing to new opportunities or changes. Even certain personality types might suffer this more than others, and even social anxiety can bring it on. Some of you might be thinking, okay, Cassandra, so I played along, I raised my hand, I may be dealing with this, so what do I do? So one of the first things that you can do when you start noticing feelings of inequity and stress, anxiety, and they seem to come internally, they seem to be coming from you personally, you're generating them. One of the first things you should really do is talk to somebody about it. Don't do what I did. Don't keep it to yourself. Make sure that you're talking to someone about it. Second is assess your abilities. Are you really someone who is nothing or useless or super bad at what you're doing? Or do you just need help? Do you need to just gain some more experience? And are you willing to ask for that help and accept it? Another thing you can do is question your thoughts. Question your line of thinking. Are your thoughts rational? Are they true? Are they logical? And more importantly, do other people really think and believe this about you? And lastly, and I think this is the most important one, stop comparing yourself to other people. It's one of the worst things we can do. Somebody in the back's like, hallelujah, I saw you. It's one of the worst things you can do, yet we do it all the time. What someone else might think of you ain't none of your business. Let them think it. So a quote that Theodore Roosevelt actually said, which I really like, is comparison is the theft of joy. And tonight, and hopefully moving forward, we want y'all to become happy. So now that I've gotten over my imposter syndrome, I actually do talk about it. I bring it up quite a lot with my clients for a couple of reasons. One, it's important to be relatable to them. I'm not perfect. I'm not inhuman. I have fallacies too, and I share this with them so they can also learn from me. And another reason is I want to keep that in my rear view. I want to keep my awareness up of it can happen to me, it has happened to me, and I don't want it to happen again. So to try to maintain my awareness about it. So if you've ever felt like a fraud or not good enough, or if you felt like you had to fake it, just know you are among great company. So many people have experienced that as well. You're definitely not alone. So I ask you to be your own ally, seek help, and get out of that little box that you might have shoved yourself in. And with that, I want to thank you for listening. Thank you so much for participating. And thank you for reading and buying this book. Thank you, Kim, for everything. And I wish you much happiness. Thanks so much.